Welcome in, everyone. Today we're going to have an educational unusual whales video. I'm just going to kind of go through the flow feed. This is the flow feed from 8/22. Obviously this is being filmed after hours. Typically your flow feed would be running all day as the flow comes in. I kind of want to go over some of my filters, just a very basic setup, and I'm just going to kind of go through the flow today, from 8/22, and we'll just see kind of what I see on a daily basis, what I'm looking for in flow and all that. So let's get started here. We're going to first look at the filters here. So these are my ask side filters, so your filters save up here as well, but I have obviously some basic filters and all that here. These are my saved filters. So we're going to look at the ask side. So we're going to assume this would be buying calls, buying puts. So keep that in mind here. Bid side would be selling. Obviously this is just our ask side filter, but first up are filters here. So they do have an AI filter builder that you can kind of explain how you want your filter created as well, but these are mine. So I have bid side flow off, mid flow off, only showing me ask side, and I hide the no side. So this is all hidden from the flow feed. My chain of activity here, I like to see at least 70% ask side flow here. This gets me started and it kind of doesn't cut off too much. I'm still seeing a good amount of flow that could be actionable versus kind of all the flow as well. But that 70, you can adjust this however you want. So this is going to show me everything again, over 70% ask side flow. I obviously don't have bid side flow or skew or anything, so I want to see both calls and puts. You can turn that off as well if you want, but I like to see the overall flow. We'll see some examples in here why I like to see both. And I obviously have an ETF filter again. Coming over here, I do have a separate ETF filter, which I like to have in tabs up here, just kind of a tip for those out there. So I just want to see stocks and ADRs. Don't care about indexes, don't care about ETFs. I'd like to see at least 90,000 premium here. This is, again, a very starter filter here. If the day is slower, you can kind of reduce that premium if you want to see more flow. I usually typically stay around this level. Size-wise, again, you can change this however you want, but I like to see at least 500 contracts here. Like to see a little bit out of the money, and obviously just your other filters, I keep all that on just so I can kind of see the overall flow if there's something big going on and I might miss it on a smaller flow or with something hidden here. And we have just obviously all this in here as well, my volatility, dividend, China stocks. So this is where you come back here. So you got your filters here. So I like to see volume bigger than open interest, out of the money only, and aggregated trades. Everything else I pretty much leave wide open. So those are just kind of my filters there for those that might want to help adjusting them, but I'm going to hide this off to the side here, and we're going to take a look at that full flow feed. So we're going to start from the beginning of the day and kind of work our way up, and we'll just kind of look at what I kind of look for in flow. So what catches my eye right away here, so it's going to show your -1 day here. These expired Friday. Videos being recorded on Saturday. So keep in mind this is all coming in live time. That's one thing that's really good about Unusual Whales. When that flow hits, it'll show. So I'm typically, when I'm looking at the flow feed here, I keep an eye on the rule here. I keep an eye on size, premium, spot, your bid ask, and obviously your ticker and days to expiration. Kind of your main functions there. These other tags here, I mean, you can get a very quick view of that kind of visual there that, okay, this might be a bullish setup, just kind of preparing you as you're about to look at the flow. And I always kind of keep an eye out for the aggregated trades. Again, that's just kind of flow that's coming in very rapidly. Just a very simple explanation there. So let's work up here. So multi-leg, I'm not a spread trader. I don't like trading spreads. For those that like trading spreads, I mean, you're going to be able to see that. I keep them on just so I can kind of see if there's other activity going around with a stock that might be getting some flow. So like MicroStrategy here, these came in pretty much right at open, Central Time here. So if you are into multi-legs and kind of seeing that, you can just kind of pull it up in here. It'll kind of show you some possibly related trades with that one. But I'm avoiding that. So first up here, I see these chewies come in. It's an aggregated trade. It's a repeated hits ascending fill. That just means that fill is increasing as that flow comes in. I like seeing something more towards the ask here. This is almost more of a mid-side fill. Obviously, that bid ask is a little wider. So this is something like I'd pass on right away. And so after that, you had some PDDs, the 926, 135 calls come in. This kind of catches my eye. Obviously, it's a big opening trade against that volume to the open interest there. So I take a peek at this. This would have been right here. Okay, that's interesting to me. At the time, your net call premium, not seeing a ton of action there. So now when I look at that raw flow here, if I come in here, I like to pop the results out just so I can kind of see everything. Okay, well, I see where that big, large chunk of volume was here. You're coming in at the ask. IV's not really changing around it, so I like to kind of look at that, how that trade impacts the IV, kind of the IV around it. I do pay attention to the flow around it, kind of where it might be more sizable or noticeably kind of maybe related. Obviously, you can never know for sure if all these are related. We're just making an assumption here. Obviously, you got your timestamp here. Make an educated guess. So your flow coming in here. So right away, we obviously had this other flow come in here about 20 seconds later. I see an IV drop. Now, these are just kind of some clues that I like to see. I want to see that IV increase on the way up. I'd like to see that spot price increase, and I want to see that flow coming in at the ask. So this one, in live time, I would be like, okay, well, this is interesting to me. Obviously, that IV is dropping, but your spot's going up. So there's sometimes I kind of weigh the spot price and ask side flow here a little bit over the IV. I do like to see it kind of follow suit, but this is something that I would maybe keep on watch and kind of monitor how the stock's going that day. So we see these IoTs again, another one not really coming in at the ask. Decent size, I kind of skip over something like this. Now you have your AMD puts here. Right away I see that open interest and volume is very similar. So I kind of like to come in here and okay, we can see where that other volume was here. So I'll pop this out 3 days. We'll go 7 to make it a little better. I see a lot of volume. I don't know what's related. This is probably an opening trade at the time, and popping this back into the intraday. You're still seeing some net put premium. This is something I'd probably pass, and obviously hindsight here, good, you would pass on something like that. Let's come back here and take a peek. Where were we? So we looked, the IoTs. Okay, no, AMD, sorry. Cough, kind of pass on this. I don't do the huger premium trades. I like the smaller ones. Now, again, another one where you're kind of in the mid, you're long term. I'd probably pass on that. Now, these Disneys would catch my attention. Coming in at the ask, those are 0 days that came in. That volume to open interest, we look at that flow. So it looks like, let's look at these puts here just for some fun. See where we can see that flow come in. Okay. Let's see if it'll let me go one more page. Sometimes it's a little funky on the 0 days. So very low IV. 117 strike. Let's come back here. Just very low IV, and then you can kind of see how that IV is also dropping after that. It's coming in. Let's pop back here a little bit. Let's pop the results out. So this is why I like to look at the flow around it. So you got that 289. You see that IV kind of spiked there. Not a lot of size. Hard to know if it's part of that trade, but continuing to follow down. I want to see where that bid side flow kind of dropped. That IV. I don't see it now. But okay, well, you can start seeing some size out here in volume, and that IV's dropping. Now this is kind of something, obviously, with time you'd catch that. But looks like those were sold at the ask, and this is one thing I always tell people too. Just remember, not everything at the ask is a buy, and not everything at the bid is a sell. Now, if these were being bought back, 31, bottom back here. So that is probably a good example of maybe somebody selling premium at the ask. Now let's go up here. Let's do, so okay, we remember the PDDs from earlier. So now I see more PDD flow coming, and I'm like, okay, they're really hammering these calls hard. Excluding if these didn't overlap earnings, you never know what's going to happen around earnings. So I take earnings flow with a grain of salt. But you can see more flow coming in here, and you can see that call premium climbing. Now I have my attention on PDD, even with that kind of mixed flow there earlier. And then you see more come in here. That's interesting to me. We'll look at these MSTRs here. Little lighter size, but you can kind of come in here, see how that's looking. The net premiums, your flow, again, always coming in here and looking at that flow. Obviously, here's a good one. This would be a textbook example of me of good flow. That IV spikes, you're staying up. You're coming in at the ask, a little wider spread. Let's just keep following this. So that flow cuts off here. That IV stayed up. Flow kept coming in at the ask. And you can kind of see at the time 9 o'clock. You can kind of see that bid side put kind of coming in. Not really a lot of call premium, but call volume picking up. Could be a good sign there. And then obviously that flow moved intraday. So more PDD. So like now I would have, my attention would be on PDD, and I would come here and kind of look at this. Okay, I'm thinking of maybe playing this excluding earnings. So I'm just kind of following this up. I don't like the kind of the midder side flow there. It's like the PDD is good here. So Tesla, obviously, one here where you're not right at the ask, but Tesla is always interesting. At the time, you kind of see a lot of ask side and bid side stuff. It would have just been these two candles when it came in, but probably would lean ask. I mean, you're looking at Tesla here. A lot of net call premium, put premium dropping, a lot of call volume. Something looks good there. And then obviously you got some more Tesla calls coming in here. So that aggregated one hitting here, 875. So these IREN puts would catch my attention. Coming in back to back like that. Short term, pretty wide spread. You look at these, have to see what happens. Now, call premium's important and net put premium's important. I don't tie my full trade into that because you can, again, when you get into the ask side part of calls, that can be sells. This can impact the net premium. So it's a good tool to use. I use it kind of overall. You can always come down here and see how much of this chain. So like this chain is 3% of that total chain's premium there. So those would look good to me. And then you got another piece of flow kind of backing that up. Well, this would be earnings flow actually. So could be an earnings play. Probably not good. Retract that. So there's some more multi-leg stuff coming in. So then like, okay, we have these PBRAs, 118 days out. Big size, big premium against very small open interest. Come in here. Okay, these look good long term. Obviously probably doesn't get a lot of action, and you can always kind of pop this out. Like 14 days, I don't see any any option activity on this one. 30 days, this is your biggest call premium here. And one more, sorry. Like when you come down here too, again, let's see how much of this is that. So this is all your premium there. So very interesting trade there with something like that. Look at a couple more. So, and this is one thing too, you don't get a ton of flow throughout the day that's actionable. You're kind of weeding out the bad flow more so. I mean, this is kind of what I'm doing. Like you can see, I haven't really looked at a ton. These, I don't like them being at the ask. I like seeing it at the ask. Depending on the day, can be a little slower. Like, okay, well, these came in, look good. You just don't have a lot of flow around that to kind of look at that where you can for sure tell. Maybe a little here. Could be related. I mean, this is your size and your time is very similar. Yeah, just kind of taking a peek. So this is what I typically will do when I read flow and kind of look at all that. Keep moving up. Okay, let's do the Ubers. Okay, well, we're pretty much coming in at the ask. Good size. Taking a peek. So, I mean, that was your big spike in the net call premium on Uber back there, and it ran. So you're seeing more there, a little more there. So this could be looking like Uber might run a little bit more here. Definitely an opening trade. Let's look at that flow. So a good sign here, your IV spikes. You're not coming in right at the ask, but then you can kind of see it drop down to the ask. So that looks like good flow there to me. You do have that IV kind of drop off there at the end, but Uber up a little bit on the day or finish the day up. Flow kind of made a good little intraday move. All right, we'll do like one more. I'm going to see if I can find a good, interesting one here. Let's see. Sorry, if you heard a bang, it's the dog trying to jump under the desk. Okay, so this would be an interesting one to me here. These 919 PG 157.5 puts. Coming in at the ask. Good size over open interest. Good premium. Let's look at these Procter & Gamble's. And you can keep this up. I usually just keep it on a daily level. So, okay. Having a big spike in that net put premium when that flow came in. We look at the flow here. Let's see, pop the results down just so I can see everything around it. So good, looks like good flow here coming in at the ask. IV's up right here. So now this is a very good piece of flow again. Your spot price is increasing and your IV is increasing. Dropped a little bit there, but then popped again there on the good size and premium. So that'd be a good example as well there. Obviously you have your put premium climbing throughout the day as well there. But yeah, this is a nice good little example video for everybody. We'll just take a quick peek at a couple more. Like these Googles, obviously that there's a lot of volume against open interest. Take a peek here. I just usually pop it back 14. I just don't like all these volume spikes. I just kind of ignore it. Come in here like open. Let's look at these. So a lot of volume today, obviously. A lot of net call premium. Kind of look at the flow. And the higher IV stuff, I tend to avoid too, just because you get IV crushed. But see that IV spike when it comes in. Coming in at the ask would read as a buy to me. And then see more PDD. So this is where I'm like, okay, something's interesting or something's up. It'd be nice if it didn't overlap earnings, and I'd like the flow a lot more. But you never know what can happen with earnings. And these Intel puts also hit the radar here. You get 19,000 coming in there. Kind of some open interest, but obviously a lot of volume today. A lot of call premium here. So like this is kind of where I'm like, maybe I'll back off a little bit. Always kind of paying attention to that multi-leg and out of the money percent, out of the money 5% on next week's expiration. Makes it kind of tough because you got theta over the weekend. Let's see if we can get a couple more. Let's do we'll do these, like these UALs. Like you see something come in like this, that's almost a mid-fill. You just kind of ignore something like that. American Airlines, again, not coming in right at the ask. CVEs, good size against open interest. Looks like it's some bid side stuff before. Quickly look at the flow. IV spikes. You're coming in at size and premium. Like this would read as a buy to me. 26 days, you're 4% out of the money. And yeah, just, I mean, I like to just sit here and I can kind of just go back and forth with this all day and just kind of take a peek if I see something good. And you can always come back and, like, this is unusual to me. This is probably going to all carry over. A little flow there, yeah. Just stuff like that's what I'm looking for, like these TSMs. Probably pass over this like throughout the day. Sometimes, I mean, like I said, if it's slow, you kind of scroll back and forth and just kind of overlook everything again and just make sure you didn't miss anything. You have a pretty slower day, like these pitons. Slower mover. I don't like slower movers that much. A lot of call premium. Overlaps earnings, obviously very long term. Yeah, so, but that's kind of just a little educational video I wanted to show everybody for unusual whales, just kind of watching the flow feed. I do have some videos of actual live streams on YouTube if you're looking for it. If you've ever wanted to try unusual whales too, feel free to use the discount code in the description below. Have a great weekend, everyone.